Leavenworth Penitentiary, a federal prison located in the northeast region of Kansas, has a cemetery officially known as Mount Hope, but goes by its more informal name, Peckerwood Hill, by prisoners and guards. The term Peckerwood dates back to the 1800s and is a racial epithet for white people, especially poor rural whites. Its first known use was in an Alabama newspaper in 1835, but by the latter half of the 20th century, the term had narrowed to apply to a white subculture associated with street gangs and prison gangs, such as the Aryan Brotherhood. This subculture is also known as PW or P-Dub, or collectively, quote, the Woodpile. Men in this group are called Peckerwoods, women are referred to as Featherwoods, and the woodpecker itself is often used as a general symbol for the group, such as in prison tattoos. It does have its strongest presence in California, Texas, and overall the U.S. South, but they are a nationally recognized gang with a presence in Washington State, Connecticut, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, and even New Mexico. This brings us to today, October of 2024, in a massive 76-page indictment or 76-count indictment where 68 San Fernando Valley Peckerwoods, or SFV, were wrapped up on a list of federal charges. The term SFV refers to the San Fernando Valley, but on the street, SFV is often referred to as searching for victims. The crimes consist of drug trafficking, illegal firearms, and COVID-19 benefits and loan fraud, as well as potential murder for hires, witness intimidation, and a litany of other federal crimes.
We begin today with the arrest of 42 members of the San Fernando Valley-based white supremacist street gang, the Peckerwoods. The indictment charges a total of 68 defendants with numerous federal crimes.
And now Eyewitness News reporter Sid Garcia is live at the LAPD's North Hollywood station with the details and video of some of the arrests made today. Sid?
Guys, it was the LAPD, the FBI, the DEA, and other police agencies that took part in the takedown today. As you mentioned, dozens of members of this white supremacist gang were taken down, and according to the feds, they committed more than just hate crimes.
Taking the guns out of the hands of gang members, taking drugs off our streets, increases the safety and reduces the harm that these activities pose to our communities.
The LAPD, FBI, DEA, and other law enforcement agencies announced today that they've taken down dozens of members of the notorious white supremacist gang, the Peckerwoods. The gang is based out of the San Fernando Valley. 29 federal arrest warrants were served this morning. 68 members of the gang were indicted on charges ranging from gun violations to identity theft.
It appears, however, that the business of hate was not enough for them. Their criminal activity took on different forms. Driven by greed, as alleged today, they engaged in drug distribution, multiple fraud schemes, and firearms offenses. 42
of the 68 gang members indicted are now in custody. The remaining 26 are fugitives. The Peckerwoods, according to federal law enforcement, have aligned themselves with the Aryan Brotherhood and Mexican Mafia prison gangs.
What we wanted to do through this investigation was neutralize this threat as quickly as possible. So as I said, we're not going to wait around for a tragedy to occur. We're going to take action right away. And in order to do that, we use every tool in our federal toolbox to address that. And that's what we've done today.
Again, 42 of the 68 indicted are in custody. They're still looking for the other 26. The sentences, if convicted on the charges, range from as low as 10 years to life in prison.
Blood in, blood out. So you have to do something to prove your loyalty to the gang.
We're learning more tonight about the gang linked to the man accused of leading police on a high-speed chase from Vancouver to Portland. Welcome to KOIN 6 News at 11. I'm Tim Becker. Police say it's a white supremacist gang. KOIN 6's Jennifer Dowling digging deeper tonight with a look at how that gang operates in Oregon prisons. Jennifer?
Well, Tim, first, Brandon Gooding had IPS prominently tattooed right here on his neck, and police said it was a cause for concern during the chase. So I dug deeper into the meaning behind those letters.
He's a known insane Peckerwoods syndicate gang member.
That's what Portland police say the letters IPS stand for, that are unmistakably tattooed on Brandon Gooding's neck.
It's a white supremacist, prison-based gang.
Gooding was arrested following a high-speed chase that started in Vancouver, where his girlfriend accused him of kidnapping her. Then it traveled south on 205. He exited in Portland, hitting a driver near Southeast Stark. Minutes later, he crashed on 92nd Ave in Holgate. Simpson says he hit police cars that were attempting to block traffic during that pursuit.
People that are affiliated with those kinds of gangs, are often associated with violent crime.
What we've seen in the last several years is the rise in white supremacist prison gangs have grown inside the prison.
Randy Blazak is a criminologist who has researched white supremacy gangs in Oregon. He explained the significance of that name.
Well, Peckerwood is associated with, is a prison term that means white inmate. It sort of goes back probably 40 years, and it's a common term within prison. There's a lot of prison slang, and that's one. And so it's kind of almost like an indigenous prison name. It kind of came from the inside. It's meant to be intimidating. On the inside, the notion of being crazy or unpredictable.
Blazak says, according to his research, inmates often join IPS for protection.
So the gang protects you while you're incarcerated, and part of the expectation is once you're released, you will continue the gang's operations outside the prison.
He says the public should be aware of what's happening behind prison walls.
They are now becoming a presence on the street and rivaling the traditional street gangs that we've had on the West Coast. We've got this new generation of gangs that were born in the prison.
Blazak says IPS is now the second most prevalent white supremacy gang of this type in the Oregon prison system. He says Europeans
in the San Fernando Valley have been indicted. Good evening, everyone. I'm Annabelle Sedano.
And I'm Robert Kowalczyk, and tonight for Colleen, prosecutors say this group embraced anti-Semitic and racist ideologies. Investigative reporter Eric Leonard has more on the case for us and why police decide to take action today. Eric.
Hi, Robert. Well, federal prosecutors used racketeering charges here to go after this group that's accused of being part of what amounts to the San Fernando Valley chapter of a notorious national white supremacist prison gang. The feds allege group members here did a bunch of typical organized crime things like selling fentanyl and meth, dealing in illegal guns, and committing bank fraud. But they say their larger motive was eventually to carry out violence against Jews and other minorities.
This was one of the largest violent extremist takedowns in LA, this city's history.
LAPD officers, FBI, and DEA agents served nearly 30 arrest warrants this morning, including this one at a motel in Sherman Oaks that targeted accused members of a San Fernando Valley white supremacist gang whose name we're not using as it itself is a slur. The 68 people indicted accused of membership in this group that's tied to a prison gang.
Essentially a local chapter of the Aryan Brotherhood has for many years tormented these neighborhoods in the San Fernando Valley.
The feds say the allegations of gang involvement and extremist ideology among those charged dates back to at least 2016.
The Aryan Brotherhood has a history of domestic terrorism, to include racially motivated attacks.
29 of the accused were arrested this morning. More than a dozen others were already in prison or jail, and agents are searching for 26 others. According to the indictments, members of the group sold all kinds of illegal drugs, including meth and fentanyl, to make money. They allegedly dealt in illegal guns, and more recently were accused of fraudulently obtaining COVID-19 loans and relief payments. They say the case took on additional urgency last year with the arrest and separate indictment of a man named Ryan Bradford in Reseda, who pleaded guilty earlier this year to being a felon with a gun.
In his home, a treasure trove of white supremacist paraphernalia, including replica Nazi uniforms, posters of Adolf Hitler.
U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada says the material also included plans for violence against Jews, the same motivation allegedly behind the actions of the others arrested today.
In fact, when we searched his home, we found a notepad in the home that had written as its New Year's resolution, quote, "Bake every single Jew."
The indictment does not accuse members of this group of any specific acts of violence against Jews or other groups.
We're not going to wait around for a tragedy to occur. We're going to take action right away. And in order to do that, we use every tool in our federal toolbox to address that. And that's what we've done today.
Were they planning something?
Next question.
Those arrested today are making initial court appearances in federal court this afternoon. They're all expected to be held in jail with no bail. The federal racketeering or RICO charges that were brought in this indictment can lead to very lengthy prison terms, up to life in prison for those convicted.
Amber Frias was there as some of those alleged gang members made their first court appearances today, and she joins us now live from downtown L.A. with new details. Amber.
Of those 29 arrested members of this gang, most of them got to face a judge today. Now, the group was so large it had to be divided onto 3 courtrooms. The hearings happened between 2:30 and 5 o'clock, and even then, the court was not able to get through everyone. Some of the defendants had their hearings continued. Now, cameras are not allowed inside a federal courtroom, but we do have some court sketches we do want to show you of the defendants. Now, of those who did face a judge today, only 2 were released on bond. The rest were detained until their next hearing. One man's mother was present in court and offered a $50,000 surety bond from her 401k, but the offer was denied by the judge, saying the man's criminal history and current charges did not meet the conditions for bail. Both mom and son appeared very emotional after the decision. Now, we tried speaking with mom, but she declined an interview. Now, we are told that those who have their hearings continued, we should expect those in the coming days. As for the defendants that did face a judge, their trial dates were set for late November.
I was going to see if you knew anybody who messed with the Norcos and the Xanax. Somebody gave me some blue 30s and the Z-bars. It owes me money. Now, there are just 2 more felonies in the glove box. You feel me? This is a discussion between 2 indicted members of the San Fernando Valley Peckerwoods gang that were just wrapped up in a massive RICO and federal indictment less than 2 weeks ago in the San Fernando Valley area. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Appreciate you guys checking out the channel. Much love, much appreciation. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Happy Sunday. Finally got a day off. I've been trying to put this thing together. So, again, this is a fluid situation. You've got the San Fernando Valley Peckerwoods, or searching for victims is how that abbreviation is referred to on the street. 68 of them basically are wrapped up in this indictment. Now, I saw differing numbers because there was 47 were arrested because some other number was already in prison or in jail. But overall, it's 68 individuals, a 76-count indictment, drug trafficking, major drugs like fentanyl. I will say this, with the white gangs, and I'm sure you guys can answer this, what's the one drug most associated with the white supremacist gangs? Methamphetamine. And that is absolutely the case in this major meth trafficking. Like I said, illegal firearms trade. And then the one that caught my eye was a massive COVID-19 relief fraud scam that some of the individuals were running. Now, I literally had to go, yes, headlines, news, all that, great. But I had to actually read through the indictment, a big portion of it, to kind of get how they break this down. And what it is so for people that are indicted, they use their names, okay? But there's a lot of them that aren't indicted that are wrapped up in the conspiracy, though. So, like, for example, unindicted co-conspirator number 3, he's actually referred to as one of the leaders in the California prison system of the Peckerwood gang, all right? Now, the Peckerwood, they've kind of fall under the Aryan Brotherhood umbrella, okay? And I don't want to do it like a disrespect way. I don't, because it kind of says that they're like low-level ranking members. And I don't want to say it because there's a lot of confusion within the prison system of the term Peckerwood and the Peckerwood gang, okay? And that's what I know. I get a lot of, when I do certain videos, I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback. And this is one of those I know. And it's not that I don't know my stuff. I don't know everything. By far, I don't know everything. Like I said, I'm happy to have a conversation. But there's a lot of confusion in general on how the term Peckerwood is used, okay? Some prison systems, California, Texas, some of the states we named that have a strong actual Peckerwood gang presence have a clear division of this is a Peckerwood gang member, this is just another white inmate. But there are a lot of states and local jails and prisons that just refer to all white inmates as Peckerwoods because they're white. They paint them with this, just a broad brushstroke. So I just want to make that clear. Now, it says that as a Peckerwood member, in order to move up, join gangs like the Nazi lowriders, move up, become a full-fledged Aryan Brotherhood member, be an Aryan Brotherhood of Texas member, or like the Aryan Circle, which was developed in the 80s, they broke away from the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas and started their own Peckerwood gang. You've got to commit more and more acts of violence, stronger acts of violence. You've got to bring some purpose. I've been watching a lot of just content all the time. Actually, you know what I like more? I mean, I love the stuff with the prisoners, but I love the stuff with the ex-guards. There's a guy, I think I already talked to him about a couple videos, Hector Bravo. He was in the California prison system for a long time. And he said when he thinks weapons, he thinks white inmates. He says that all the prison gangs are violent. They'll all come to kill you. But a lot of times, some of the other gangs, they'll attack somebody, might not end up killing them. He said when the whites come, they come heavy, they come correct with the weapons, and you're going to die. Unless by the grace of God you're saved. But I'm sure a lot of those jail COs go, man, for $20-some an hour. I'm not jumping in the middle of that. So, just really interesting. And this is the thick of it. So the San Fernando Valley area, that's located, it's referred to as, quote, the Valley. It's an urbanized area in LA. It's situated in the North Los Angeles basin. And basically a large part of it is LA. There's other unincorporated areas around it. But let's just, North Los Angeles. Okay. Now, when I was watching the news clips and all that, it said that these guys have been running rampant for a long time. And you see the police response to getting these guys. You see, how serious they take this stuff. You saw that, I don't want to call it a tank, but God, it was that SWAT thing going in there with the camera and I'm sure there's like a grenade or a smoke grenade attached to it. They do not play. They know the violence levels that these guys are willing to go to, and women. And we're going to get to that in a second. But yeah, it is absolutely no joke. They had the guy that they talked about who was making bomb material. Then you got a guy over here doing COVID-19 fraud. It's no joke, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. This is all about earning, getting your place in the gang, the hierarchy, because here's the thing. Eventually, you're going to go to prison. That's the thing. Eventually, you're going to go to prison, and you're either going to go in there with some serious, skill, and the gang looks at you as an asset, or you're going to go in there and just be a low-level guy, and it just is what it is. So you got to put in work. You got to do what you got to do, and I do like the fact that they let the women join. I'm not going to lie. I like that. I like that I don't know if they're on the same level. Again, if some of you, if some of you know more than that, because what I read through was there wasn't a clear women are below, that's that. I didn't see that. But again, if some of you know better, please comment down below how women are viewed in the Peckerwood organization. Again, please comment, write that. I would love to know that. So as I'm reading through this indictment, okay, bank fraud, drug distribution, fentanyl, methamphetamine. Again, it was 68 defendants, conspiracy to violate the racketeer, influence a corrupt organization, RICO, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, meth, fentanyl, distribution of not distribution of weapons, but basically illegal firearm possession. And it said, this is an interesting one, in possession of 15 or more unauthorized access devices. Comment down below. What the hell does that mean? So it says this indictment alleges criminal activity it starts with back in the end of 2016. So December of 2016 is when this is beginning. Now, in the indictment that I actually read, the way the government charges this, I kind of getting a better idea of how they charge these RICOs, all right, is they're called overt acts, and how they wrap everybody up in this, wiretaps, jail, mail, classic, just stakeouts, or just monitoring people's activities or tying people in. But a lot of this is over phone calls, right? And a lot of this is over jail calls. A lot of this is, coded messages, coded languages. And that's what this says. So one of them that's caught up, or one of these overt acts that they're talking about, is the drug distribution, the firearm trade, all right? So that is, just reading that gives you the really broad idea of how big this thing goes. I talked about how there's one the leader of one of the California Peckerwood gangs. He's not even indicted in this, but he's just referred to as unindicted co-conspirator 3. And there's 50 of them that are unindicted. All right? So the gang has a large number of females who call themselves Featherwoods. The main female in this was a gal by the name of Claire Patricia Haviland. She was in her 60s, okay? She was heavily on the drug side of things, okay? And it said from at least December of 2016, September of 24, Peckerwood members conducted and participated in the affairs of their criminal enterprise by engaging in violence, threats of violence, and it's all about preserving and expanding the gang's criminal operations. And they, again, a lot of these gangs, they operate on a climate of fear, okay? A climate of, basically, if you don't go along with what we're asking you to do, it's over. So going back to Claire, okay? To generate revenue for the gang, its members traffic narcotics, including fentanyl, heroin, and methamphetamine. Specifically, and this is crazy, she's named, as lead defendant, Claire Patricia Haviland, 62, of Chatsworth, and co-defendants Brian Glenn Eklund, 53, of Chatsworth, and Brian Brewer, 38, of North Hollywood, maintained and oversaw drug stash houses where large quantities of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and other drugs were stored prior to distribution. Haviland and Eklund, this is crazy, allegedly mailed illegal drugs to customers and used applications such as Zelle and Cash App to receive money from drug buyers and send money to their drug sources. All right? I learned a new term today. It's called a happy card. And I guess a lot of happy cards were used between members in this indictment. And it's a greeting card that is saturated in a controlled substance, heroin, meth, whatever. I've seen Suboxone used. The little bit of time I did, little jail time, I remember guys were getting Suboxone sent in, those little Suboxone strips. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Hope you don't ever have to be on it. But if you do, hey, it's better than being on opiates. So anyway, including, like I said, they were putting meth, heroin, fentanyl, and they're sent to an inmate who is incarcerated. So it's a happy card, right? It's like a greeting card, a Christmas card, birthday card, whatever. Looks innocent on the front, but in reality, it's covered in drugs. So anyway, and then it goes on to list just more about what these guys were doing, these overt acts, right? Defendants Cunningham and Winters and others, known and unknown to the grand jury, like I said, remember, unindicted co-conspirator, that's how these guys are referred to, would maintain firearms and other dangerous weapons to be used in connection with the SFV criminal enterprise and its operations, including connection with drug distribution activities. Defendants Claire Haviland and Brian Eklund and others known and unknown to the grand jury would distribute the drugs to the customers all the way, they're running it nationwide. They're crossing state borders here. And that's also what makes this all federal as well, is when you start crossing state lines. So defendants Haviland, Brewer, and Eklund and others known and unknown to the grand jury would maintain and oversee the drug stash locations. And number one, right, so all these, they're just naming all co-conspirators and all this stuff. It's just going down, down, down. Now, all right, going down even more. The guns, all right? The guns. Defendants Sims and Brewer and other known and unknown members to the grand jury would carry out fraud schemes in order to generate money for themselves and other members of the SFV criminal enterprise. Okay? Now, defendants Haviland, Brewer, and others known and unknown to the grand jury would share information with members and associates of SFV criminal enterprise and AB regarding law enforcement. Okay? So you can see why that Featherwood, okay, Claire, as you read through this, because you could tell they had broken up jobs for people, okay? Excuse me. They had broken up jobs for people. And Claire seemed to be involved in everything. She seemed to be involved in everything, even in the fraud schemes and all. That's kind of what you see with women. Like, they can be very, very helpful. And it's just a different kind of, it's just a different kind of asset to have, okay? So, talking about the bomb making, all right? The U.S. attorney cited one example of one gang member, Ryan Bradford, who was found to be selling drugs and manufacturing explosive devices when he was arrested. Quote, a treasure trove of white supremacist paraphernalia was also found, including replica Nazi uniforms and posters of Adolf Hitler. Bradford also allegedly made social media posts, basically, and I didn't want to go into it. They said it in the news story, but what he would do to Jewish people. In fact, when we searched his home, we found a notepad that had written as its New Year's Eve resolution to harm Jews violently. And of course, when they see this, the U.S. attorney, he can come right out. That's what this group stands for. That's what the Peckerwoods are all about. It doesn't make me rethink my, earlier comments about I don't think they're all racist, because I don't. Now, obviously, Bradford, yeah, he's a racist. He's a racist. There's no two ways about it. He's not a good person, right? I think someone running drugs, even guns for gangs, I don't have as much of a problem with that. But when I see the racist stuff, I kind of part from that. I don't like seeing that at all. It's just not cool, I guess, is a kind of one way to put it. They also, now this is interesting, it goes on to talk about other ways to generate revenue. They also generated revenue via robberies and financial fraud and participated in ID theft schemes. For example, from at least March of 2021 to July of 23, defendants Sean Craig Gluckman of Encino, California, Maria Ann James of Canyon Country, and others submitted false and fraudulent applications for the Paycheck Protection Program. That was that massive PPP loan scam that you saw all kinds of people, even kind of like half famous people, getting wrapped up in, where, they were having these fake businesses, these fake employers, and they're getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Well, hey man, street gangs are going to take part in it too. And that's kind of where I give, not credit, but I say these guys were really doing some things, because they didn't just have their fingers dipped in, they were dipping in a lot of different money-earning rackets. And that PPP program was originally designed to aid businesses harmed by the economic fallout from the COVID-19. So we were all affected by it. If you lived in a town, a city, the small businesses were affected, right? Huge corporations were affected, but no. It was the small mom and pop shops, the small local restaurants that COVID-19 greatly affected, and that's what this program was used for. But what do we talk about? Well, not what we talk about, but there's a saying used that across history, right? Basically a time of panic, national tragedy is also a time for great opportunity for those who use it correctly, right? You see it in times of war. People make a lot of money, okay? You see it in COVID-19. People make a lot of money. Illegitimately and legitimately. The Peckerwoods, obviously, they were doing it illegitimately. Easy, fast money, PPP scams. You can do it sitting at a computer. It said Gluckman in April 2021 submitted an app that falsely stated he was a self-employed artist with an income of $250,000 a year, and he obtained a loan for over $20,000. So, and then it goes on to talk about other defendants running guns and how, they were using mail corresponding with people in prison, because again, the leaders are all in prison. Okay. But yeah, this Claire Haviland, man, she was really running the show. I cannot find a picture of her. I looked and looked and looked. The only one I found a picture of was the guy I really didn't want to care about finding a picture of, was the bomb maker, the really racist guy. But, yeah, crazy. And then lastly, members and associates of the gang use social media to share info with each other about their criminal activities, gang rules, to identify gang members in good standing, and target those who broke the gang's rules. Social media use included a members-only Facebook group and private direct messages between the gang's members and associates. Additionally, SFV members and associates established that private group, and this goes all the way back to 2013, all right? And it's still remained active. And basically what it does is it affirms members with their active SFV membership, including monikers, pictures, tattoos, update regarding law enforcement, including photographs of suspected undercover law enforcement officers that may be involved, or this is and this is where it gets dangerous, man. Members who they suspect are working with, basically snitching with San Fernando Valley law enforcement, and people who are cooperating. And then there's updates on associates who may be getting in or out of prison. It's just this is really deep. This is really, really deep. It's not just I will say this, it's not just your normal drug gun case. You start talking about social media use. You start talking about not social media use, but to that extent, having a private Facebook chat that's still active. That's going on 11 years strong. The female side of it, the fact that a 60-some-year-old female was involved in everything, and she's one of the main people indicted. Yeah, that's no joke. Now, something to remember, kind of like mentioned in the beginning, this, I shouldn't say remember because I didn't mention it at first, but the Peckerwoods and the AB, they go together, okay? Now, they have an alliance with the Mexican Mafia, all right? So, the Mexican Mafia controls a large portion of the street gangs, the drug trades in the California area. Now, how the Peckerwoods benefit from this is because they have that alliance, because, again, this all trickles down from the prison. So because they have the good status in prison, it's said that the Mexican Mafia street gangs they controlled weren't taxing the Peckerwoods gang. So the Peckerwoods were free to earn a buttload of money across a lot of different avenues. And again, it said that one state's attorney was talking about how this has been going on for years. So, and again, I'd have to do research because I've done a lot of these videos where, 60, 70, 80 people get rounded up. But the one made a comment that it's the largest, the news anchor or something, that's the largest gang roundup. I think it might just be for that particular area, San Fernando Valley. But we will continue to update. The last news thing I saw was they couldn't even get all of them in front of a judge. It said out of however many they saw that day, a large portion, only 2 were released on bond. It gives you an idea of the criminal history of these guys and how I know for a fact these guys operate when they're on the free world and you're in that gang, you're in that mindset. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when you're going back to prison. That's just it. So anyway, there you guys have it. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys for checking out the video. Until next time, peace.